Yeah, yeah, hey.
Hey, wow, that's perfect. Yeah, joining us now, the host of my second favorite podcast, It's Just Banter, and former KTCK, the ticket personality, it's TC Fleming. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, man, no problem. Happy to do it.
Yeah, I have been a super fan for forever. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up a picture of you now. We're going with the stock photos of you and Jake.
Okay,
If it's good enough for your Facebook, then it's good enough for me.
sure.
Oh no, I like that one better. That one's better. The classic one where you're towering over, Jake. That's the one I want.
Yeah, I saw someone comment at some point, confused because they thought that Jake was taller. And he is. I was standing on something.
Right.
Like there was a piece of concrete. I don't know, just like a whatever.
So, how have you been since the shelter at home order has been thrown forth?
My main interaction with it is just feeling guilt over how easy it is for me to shelter in place. Like, I don't know, I had to stop, I most of my time, not most of my time, but 3 days a week I would drive Uber.
Uh-huh.
So that would pay about half my bills, and then the podcasting stuff pays the other half. And Jake was nice enough to be like, "Hey, just take the whole chunk of everything every month." And
Yeah,
until
he's rolling
whatever.
into tier 1 money now.
Yeah, I would not overestimate his earnings or underestimate exactly how nice he was being by saying that. But yeah, so I just knocked off doing the 3 days a week Uber, and otherwise my life is unchanged. So I just have more free time, really. And yeah, so quarantine's great for me. I'm keenly aware, and that's where the guilt comes from, that it's pretty terrible for most other folks, and the disease is certainly going to kill a lot of people, and so I don't take any of it lightly, but I also have to be frank about my circumstances, which is that things are really easy.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're. So I've been asking people about their side hustles basically this entire time. Sorry, I should go tell you about myself a little bit because we've met many times. I don't know how many of them you remember. I
Probably all of them.
really I was there at that ill-fated election day coverage. I was one of the few that heard that one. But
I think the first time we met was what was the Maverick Center that I was supposed to be able to talk to, that they were like, yeah, we're not letting you
I
talk.
told that story yesterday when I was letting people know who you are. Yeah, it was Tyson Chandler, and I remember that.
Okay.
I don't remember that because it was Tyson Chandler. I remember it because it was a live remote, and the moment Tyson Chandler showed up, like we're both looking out at the sporting goods store, whatever crowd, the throng of people, and they immediately, the moment we look at them, they start yelling, "TC, TC, TC!" And like,
Yeah.
yeah, your eyes got huge, and then like a split second later, like, oh, Tyson Chandler's here.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't go by TC,
I
like
know,
his
but they were
name is
yelling it. It was
Tyson.
so crazy.
Yeah, no, but I've never previous. I mean, it's his initials, but it's not like anyone called Dirk DN.
Right,
Like
right.
it's not.
Yeah, but
It's
that
not like
name
there's
Dirk.
the world is just crawling with so many TCs that it's like an obvious thing you got to do. I don't know. I think the crowd was in the wrong. Between the group of 30 people and then me by myself, I'm gonna say that all 30 were doing the wrong thing, and I was correct.
Well, you had a crowd of one. I was there to see you. I
Thank you.
I think I had met you before, but I can't remember. You were doing a live remote close to my house. It was with a Maverick of I didn't care who at the time. Beltran would have cared, but not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're Free Play Arcade. Free Play Richardson, Denton, Arlington, and Fort Worth more recently. And we were a booming arcade until like the day before everything shut down. So I was literally there Saturday, massive group of people there, just a normal Saturday where it was basically a club. We have a community of 6,000 or so that you're talking to now. Not all 6,000 of them are in here, sadly. But Yeah, from that until the very next day, we were all laid off. Everybody laid off. All the arcades are endangered. We've literally brought back arcade gaming in the last 5 years. I can't tell you how like life-changing it's been for me, other than like I can't go see the It's Just Banter live tapings on Tuesdays because we're doing Tuesday Night Fights. Again, blame Beltran for that. But yeah, it just night and day, just like everything. And we had a secure job and a fifth facility coming on the way. All those rents due, and just boom. So we've been asking for donations and stuff. And then since that point, I don't have a job anymore. However, everybody in the community and with the leftover equipment that we had, we just went online and have been literally streaming 24/7 for, this is like day 17 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an undertaking. Like, we were streaming before, and I know I invited you on a few times before, but now it's been really nuts. And for me, it's
less urgency before, you know?
Yes, yeah, for sure. No, and I thank you so much for coming on.
Nah, no problem. Happy to do it.
Let's see. I do have many questions that people have submitted. None of them involve Rolando McClain, thankfully. Do you like your gig?
Yeah, especially now that it's doing nothing. I love doing nothing.
Yeah, I had to. They would hurt me if I didn't ask you at least that one first.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So, how did you get into radio in the first place?
I mean, you know, I listened to the ticket a lot and just wanted to work there. Like, I guess if I'd been offered an internship at another radio station, I probably would have taken it. But it would have been because I liked the ticket, you know? Like, oh, it's another radio station. Well, I like radio stations, so I guess I'll do this. But no, Bad Radio put out a call whenever I was a junior in college that they needed interns. I emailed Tom, and I don't think that too many other people did. There was another guy hired at the same time, but I don't think that there was like a list of 10 other people that they were picking from. I don't know if the average person understands how difficult it is to get interns. It's not impossible. I mean, there's several of them every semester, but it's not like they're picking from a list of 100. And you know, you gotta like it's not getting into the Navy SEALs or something.
Right. Yeah. You have to be you as an intern have to be in a position in your life where you can work for free for months on end. So that kind of
which is not. Yeah. There's not a million people doing that.
No.
Totally true.
No,
I mean, at the time when I got it, I was like, or whatever I was applying, I was like, well, I'll send the email, but there's no way I'm getting this. You know, there's got to be like, I thought that there was 1 million people, but I was wrong about that. So I did the internship and I really liked it, and they were, you know, nice and took a liking to me, and so they, you know, Bob and Dan asked about getting me like a part-time job there, and I did that for a long time. Then
was that part-time job the top 10, or was that before then?
No, top 10's a full-time job. Part-time was just I would run the board on the weekends, produce on the weekends, stuff like that.
Gotcha. How did you step apart from the crowd? Because we've actually had former Bad Radio interns on, just because even before this we were streaming fighting game tournaments and pinball tournaments and just like any arcade game tournament, and to get, you know, even pseudo quality commentary, going for an old intern of a radio station is a great method of doing it.
Sure.
So we've had former Bad Radio interns on before, but like, how did you stand apart from the crowd? Do you know? How'd you pull it off?
Well, the interns that I was with, like in the class, it was just one other guy, and he was in his 40s or something like that. It seemed like kind of a weird guy. He's harassed me on Twitter since then. Like 5 years later, came back around and was like, you know what, you were weird. So
what,
you know, shout out to him if he's listening.
I mean, you kind of are weird, but you're kind of great on the radio. I don't.
Yeah, you know what? I don't remember there was some point that I was making at the time that he was objecting to, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I know. I had a meeting with Dan as we were trying to get a live. I've been doggedly trying to get a Bad Radio remote at Free Play for the longest time. We've done the hardline several times now, and I guess we managed to get Bob in there as the first remote of the new hardline, or whatever they're calling themselves now.
Nice.
But, you know, I had Dan out there for a meeting, and I remember talking to him about you, and of course you had already left the station at this point, and I know he is very defensive of you, and I think I was talking about people who are good on the microphone, because I sort of relate, like, we've had bad radio interns before. It's hard to get people who will just talk on the mic. A lot of people just fall flat, and not everybody's like TC, and he's like, oh, TC's really good, and I was like, oh, you don't understand. Like, I'm a Banter Davidian from way back. Like, I've been listening for forever. I'm a huge fan of TC, so we bonded over that a little bit, as much as I can bond with Dan McDowell over a sponsor meeting.
Well, I'm glad that both of you were so complimentary and nice. Just that other guy, he stopped, like, he had some kind of like thing where he was working from home previously, and so that's why he had the time to do this, and then his job shifted him, so now he couldn't. So he was only there for like a couple weeks. So one of the big advantages that I had as far as standing out is there's no other interns like there in the building to stand out against. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the same time, though, there's so many that come in season after season, and you're the one that stuck. Like, it is impressive. It's inspiring, really. Like, it has been.
I just really, really, really wanted to work there, and it felt like kind of humiliating whenever I'm rolling into the second year of interning. Like, it's not something like whenever you're at a bar, you don't want to like tell people you meet like, hey, I'm a 24-year-old intern. It ended in a full-time job, and like there's not another way to get full-time jobs up there. I guess Julie hadn't been, or she was working. She got hired straight to part-time tickers, but
right.
That's and
but
Julie
was in the industry, so
yeah, and I thought she was a great choice. I think she does a great job. I'm just saying, like, for the most part, if you have a full-time job at the ticket, it means that you had a part-time job at the ticket for years and years and years prior to that. And in her case, I think it was like months instead of years. But like, Mino was an intern and a part-timer for a very long time. Jake was hired to do part-time at the same time that I was.
Jake has to have the most like intern seniority ever. He had the group for.
He started earliest for sure.
Yeah, I think he was 18 when he started, if I remember my Jake lore correctly.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
More questions from the crowd. Well, who were your media influences growing up?
I really liked the ticket. So I went to in high school. I wasn't like allowed to listen to the radio. I went to a weird boarding school thing, like for disciplinary stuff. Like that they're attempting to straighten me out, largely unsuccessful. And so I didn't.
Well, they definitely influenced you in some way. I don't know that they straightened you out.
Yeah, but it's not like I had a media influence at that time or anything. Like I was specifically being blocked from media. So whenever I got out, the first thing that I heard that where I thought it was people who probably like got an above average SAT score talking about sports on the radio was Keith Olbermann would go on Dan Patrick's show for an hour. I don't know if it was every day or if it was like every other day or something. It was kind of an odd schedule.
Yeah.
But, nowadays I would not say that like I strongly agree with everything Keith Olbermann's ever said.
Right.
But just as far as like being like he was analyzing it from a perspective that it was entirely different from like Stephen A. Smith, Like, I don't think anyone would confuse those two necessarily. I mean,
No.
They are both ESPN personalities, but they have very different approaches. So I would say, the first person that I heard as a young person that I was like, man, that sounds neat. I would have to admit at this point is Keith Olbermann.
Yeah, you have the weirdest like path to sports, even sports fandom fame I've ever heard of. Like, I guess you have your family was into Irish Notre Dame football, but like as far as I recall, you weren't really big into sports until coming out of the forced sequestering at the boarding school, right?
Yeah, whenever I was a junior in high school at the boarding school, they started letting us play fantasy football. Or actually, I think I was a senior. That was 2000. I don't remember. Junior or senior. I think. Okay, it's not important. They started letting us play fantasy football, and that like I always had a decent amount of competitiveness. Like it seemed like this was something where
it was just a chance to like attempt to prove that I was smarter than the people I was playing against. And I've never thought that I could throw a ball farther or run faster than anyone, but outsmart you, like maybe I'll have a shot. I'm at least interested in attempting. So I love playing the fantasy football, which is ironic because I haven't played fantasy football in fucking a decade.
Well, you're more fantasy baseball now, right?
Yeah, some.
Are you still in that
I
league?
Got no,
There's a high dollar league.
we had a falling out. We had a rift with with our fantasy baseball league. I don't think that's interesting to your the listeners of your stream. But
I mean,
yeah,
I don't care so much. No, I do care, but there are plenty of P1s in the audience right now, so I don't know how much they can follow or not follow. Although if you guys have any questions and want me to slow down and stop with the double speak, it's sort of like the ticket is one of the biggest influences on me ever, and the way that I've gone about community building with free play is directly related to how I listen to the ticket. We literally have drops that have nothing to do with the ticket, but I can just sort of like
Behind me, sit over there. You sit over there.
Like I just have a drop board of 1 million. That's from Why Today Doesn't Suck. But more than that, just sort of the way you guys communicate with each other, and you can stick to sports, and then you can jump out of sports. And I say you guys, knowing that you're not with the station anymore, but like you're so entrenched in, like I heard you mentioned on the air today when they were talking about the April Fool's Open. So it's a huge influence, and it has very much been understood within the people who are ticket listeners who are also with us.
Very cool.
Honestly, I can't thank you enough. Like the ticket was a big influence, yes, but particularly you, and you over Jake even with the It's Just Banter. I listened to you on the old when they were making fun of you on going off of rants on Bill Simmons' podcast on the Bad Radio podcast.
Yeah.
I was listening to the episode before when you were going on rants about something else, and I was also a Bill Simmons, a BS report, and I think it was Aya the Sports Guy at that point. I was listening to his podcast at that time. I was getting all the podcast I could, so I was right there with you. I totally understood, like when they were coming down on you. You know what? Let's just go into this. This is TC of It's Just Banter. You can Google it. It's Just Banter, part of the Blowout Podcast Network, a network I am so familiar with, I don't need to look it up. I just know it. You can Google it. He has his own Patreon podcast. So like half the It's Just Banners are free. Half of them are a nominal fee on Patreon, and you get 2 episodes a week, and they're excellent. Or at least I can recommend them. So go there and give him a sub or a listen or a try. But It's Just Banter. How did that come about?
Yeah, so this always gets told differently depending on which one of us you're asking. But I'm me, so I get to give my recollection. My recollection is that I had a friend from the high school that I went to who lived in Houston, which is where the school is located, and he was going to come up, and he did drive up to Dallas, and I was like, we should like sit down and like record a conversation with him. Like I don't know, like I just wanted on wax, like me and him talking about going to this weird rehab, and thought that it would kind of make a little more sense if there was someone who hadn't been there that was like curious about it, that was asking us. And Jake and I, like I said, we're both part-time board ops on the weekends, and every time like he would have like the next shift after me, or I would have the next shift after him, we would both probably like hang out for 30 minutes into the other person's shift, just like talking and just like, hey, here's someone else who has similar interests and stuff like that. And that was not, I mean, no offense to any other board ops, they were all nice people, but that was not happening like every other time someone else took over. Like if the schedule came out and like we did not have shifts that were like at this like similar times, I'd be kind of bummed.
And so whenever I had this thing come up where I wanted to do this this project of recording an interview with my friend, you know, he seemed like the natural choice of like someone who, you know, would be good for that. So I asked him if he wanted to do that, and we did. We recorded it like, so the only place that had more than 2 microphones, so that would allow 3 people to talk, in the whole like Cumulus Studios was the Ticket Studio. So we waited till after hours and then like asked Chris House to record it on a computer in the control room, like take the mics out of the stream that sends them over the air and just like put them so they were just going to the computer. Which, looking back, like I cannot believe he agreed to that, like, and didn't tell us to go away and like get angry at us. Like, it was very rude. And if it were me, like, I don't think that I would have taken nicely to it.
I don't know. I think you were showing initiative. There's so many people there that probably aren't going after it quite that aggressively. And maybe it's a different landscape because now everybody has a podcast, including, I guess, myself. But
yeah, and I mean, this was like 2009, probably 2010.
Well, there was no path either. There was no path. Like there is no way to cross the moat to be tier 1 status. There's literally only one single person who's ever pulled it off in the history of ever, and that's Jake, and he did it this year. Yeah.
And so I think that we looked around and like a rough guess of the next time that they would let us do anything would be like you know, about now. Like we were sitting in 2009 being like, well, maybe by 2020 they would let us host. So yeah, we just wanted to be in a spot where like we were ready for it whenever, you know, like if that was the original intent of the podcast, was just, you know, to have those skills developed so that if you know, there was a spot that it would work out. And you know, like obviously I think it would be cool to have a show on the Ticket. I would say that it is not like my feelings on it have evolved since I was like 17, you know, and like now.
Well, now you can make a living on it. Like it's just Banter. Your side hustle is good enough that you have a house.
Yeah, but I just want to say I feel a tremendous amount of happiness that you know, from that, like 1 for 2 is not a bad ratio, you know, like
no.
As far as 2 of us setting out doing a podcast with the intent of being a host, that from that pool someone else, or you know, someone eventually rose to that. I think is incredibly cool, and I feel, you know, pride from being involved in the project. So
yeah, I feel like you certainly should. I don't think it would have happened without it, and it's great. I remember me personally being, you know, because I love the Ticket, and you know, I love Bad Radio as it was. My favorite incarnation of Bad Radio was actually when it just had the full cast on there, you and Jake and even Donovan. Like whenever you guys came up with the Fridays at 2:30, the Kid and Computer, like that era of Bad Radio is just, I could not ever get out of the radio. Like I would set my clock by it. Yeah, but more than that, it's just Banter. I remember, I don't know, I've gone through the trials and tribulations because I am a day 1 P1 of that, or even day 0 when I was listening to the Bob and Dan radio podcast that you were producing. I remember thinking, you know, they have to, what was it, what's the Sunday show that left and they ended up with Jake getting a Sunday one?
I think that was Matt and Scott, right?
Matt and Scott, yeah, something like that. And that was after Ben and Skin or something like that. There was some show that went away that it felt like, well, okay, this is the time. It's just Banter should just go legit, and they have a show right there, and they didn't do it. They gave Jake a show with Sean. And I remember, like, I was personally upset at it. You ended up leaving the station not too long after. Was it related?
No, that was just, you know, I mean, I got an opportunity to be a program director and to host the show daily on a station in Pensacola, which, you know, is near the beach.
I could say I've definitely, like, taken it personally as like trials and tribulations of It's Just Banter, and you and Jake, like, have like, you get passed over or you get accepted in some way, and it's like I'm always just kind of hanging on there. It drove me insane whenever I heard Jake on the air with Sean and not you, and I ended up barely listening to. I mean, I would listen to it, and I would it stung me, right? And then you went off. I definitely had the question here. Let me go to it. Yeah, they wanted me to ask you about what your experiences in Florida were like.
Oh, it was pretty great. The guy who owned the station, or like owned in air quotes, as we found out, whatever. He was crazy. He was an alcoholic who like was not drinking at the time, but like if like I just all the things that I found out about like the personality traits of addicts from being in the drug school,
Mm-hmm.
like he exhibited all of those, so it was working from him was nuts, and like I did not like that part of it, but otherwise, I mean, I liked my co-host. He's actually, as of whenever this baseball season gets started, he will debut as the play-by-play voice of the Cincinnati Reds on the radio.
Nice. Name drop. Who is he?
Tommy Thrall.
Tommy Thrall.
Was my co-host at the Pensacola station. So I love doing our show. I loved the work I was doing when I was not on the air. Just like I mean, it was. I'd never been so busy in my entire life before. Like, it's a tiny station with a tiny staff that needs as many things done as the ticket needs, but just with a fourth of the people. So just everyone has to work a lot more than anyone works at the ticket. And that was a change up. I don't know that I would have wanted to do it for a decade, but I thought it was awesome. Just like constantly having something to do, and like something where like I felt like there was not a single day down there that I didn't end the day feeling like I'd gotten a ton done, and I was really proud of how hard I'd worked. And I mean, I just can't understate how cool it is to actually do a daily radio show. And then living 20 minutes from like literally 20 minutes driving from my apartment to where I could like have my feet in the water of the Gulf of Mexico. Was awesome, and the restaurants in Pensacola are pretty cool. It's an underrated city. I mean, whatever. It's a tiny place
on the beach,
it's
so
not perfect, but yeah, it's great. I liked it a lot. I would have been happy to live there for much longer, but the station was not bringing in very much money. I was the highest paid person by like probably, and I was paid $28,000 to do that job, which was a $4,000 raise on the top 10. So great news to me. My apartment in Pensacola was much cheaper than my apartment in Dallas. So that was actually a pretty prosperous time. But so 28,000. Whenever I say I was the highest paid person on the station, I just mean
right. No one was a millionaire. I gotcha.
Yeah. But I think that was like more than double what they paid anyone else for like on air things. Like they would pay you commissions on sales. Because
so you had to double as sales.
What's that?
You had to double as sales then?
I did not, but I was the only person who didn't.
Okay.
So I think that like that was a major thing. So whenever they're trying to like cut, expenses, they were like, "Do we really need a program director?" Well, I mean, what does that even do? And
everything.
Yeah. And laid me off, and I mean, it was I think less than 2 months from then that that guy that laid me off was removed from the station, and it was within a year of that like it just ceased to be as a station whatsoever, and now none of those people are involved in the operation of it, which it's too bad. Like,
was that?
I think that there was a way to do it, and I wish that we got more of a chance to try. But,
well, now you kind of are the program director, or if you're not literally the program director of the Blowout Podcast Network, right?
I don't really think that's the same thing.
I mean, it seems to be growing and morphing as you go along.
Yeah, and I would not say that it's me. Machine is always been very involved in it. Jake's been very involved in it. So
Yeah. The diversity of personalities and talent there are just great. Did you, when you went to Florida, as you pursued your radio career, did you go to college for media?
No, I was an English major because whenever I started college, I was coming straight out of the boarding school, so I really liked reading my whole life, and was really into literature in high school, like just whatever books I could get my hands on in the boarding school. So I was an English major, and I just never really changed from that. But whenever I got the job interning for Bad Radio, it was during the exact time that all my classes were.
Uh-huh.
So I just stopped attending
Gotcha.
college. I tried to do them like at night and stuff, and it was just too much, man.
Yeah, my reason for asking is sort of like I was wondering if that, the Florida gig or maybe later, any of the ticket gigs, if that was like the culmination of what you were looking for, because my personal, like my experience is I can very much relate to the things that you're saying, because now I'm on the air from noon till 10, and I'm booking shows, and I'm getting everything straight, and I'm also producing. I'm way overworked. Everybody knows it, and if anybody is, like, I have tons of people just helping me because they appreciate how much I'm throwing myself out there. However, it was totally unintentional. Like, I am a big fan of It's Just Banter. I did not want to hear my own voice on It's Just Banter. Even when you asked me to be on your movie podcast, and I want to say it was to talk about, the Mad Max movie, Fury Road, even that had me just, like, confused. So yeah. Any advice you have for somebody who just like finds themselves teleported into this ridiculous life, willingly? I'm just trying to save arcades, and suddenly I'm on the air all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's a good way to spend your time. Like, I think having like this is at the very like baseline. You're trying to do something good, like both in saving the arcade and in entertaining people on this stream, and like both of those are really noble, pure goals. And
I also have to keep us all sane, because it's like being the mayor of an invisible city of 6,000, and everybody got killed on the same day, and all of their coping mechanisms are gone.
Yeah, well, they're not dead. They could come back. I don't know. I know absolutely nothing. I'm not a small business owner. I mean, I guess Blowout is technically an LLC, but
yeah, I'm not a
really
small
right
business
now,
owner either. Now I'm just a dude who got laid off, who refuses to quit his job.
But I'm just saying, like, I think all of the small businesses that are worried, they all know their own situation. I have no doubt that it's dire, and it's definitely going to require, that forces outside of them help them out, like the federal government.
Yes.
But it looks like they're doing that a little bit, and it would definitely make sense for us to preserve these businesses through this time.
Yeah.
And just tell them, like, don't worry about rent right now. It's not like I mean, what are they going to do? Sell those spaces to someone else? Like,
right.
Who else is like? There's not competing arcades that want to start now.
Right. In this moment, when arcades are literally illegal.
Yeah. So the building exists, the machines exist. Someone's going to have to do something with them whenever this is all over.
I plan on it for it to be us, and I plan for us to be us again, and make my job back and get my job. Apparently, I made a job at one point, and I don't know. It's TC. We could have a million conversations on this, because life got really surreal really quick when an arcade opened up next to my house.
Yeah. No, it certainly seems so. It's not like you had like whenever we met at the Oshmans or whatever it was. You were not working in arcades. I think it was nice enough job. Sounded like very traditional, boring.
Yeah, I was working at a print shop, and it was my rusted handcuffs that would give me the time on the weekends where I could go do whatever I wanted. And at the point that I was talking to you then, it was just sort of play Skyrim and Rock Band with my friends. It just sort of, for some reason, like a year later, it all culminated into, well, there's an arcade, and I had traveled around the country playing Tekken and was a quasi-pro gamer.
That's great.
When there was no money involved in it, so I was still stupid poor. But then I had also had a background in this arcade game, and this arcade game, and this arcade game, and I had a background in community because I was running all of the little tournaments and gaming parties at UTD. And then I had the recent history knowledge of you with It's Just Banter, and how you uniquely thought about things. Like just the way that you deal with things has has always been an inspiration, even though you're I don't know 5 or 6 years younger than me. Just your unique mindset and listening to your programs inspired me to just make it, because you just made your job. Like, you just went out and interned. Like, you didn't let anybody stop you. I don't even know if you were intending to make a job, and that's exactly how I did it. I just did it. Like, I wanted something to exist, so I made it.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, that's very cool. That's you know, that's cool that you did it. I don't know. I feel bad that I've not made it out to any of your Tekken tournaments or anything. If it's any consolation, I don't think that I've done like it's not like I'm going to another business next door in Arlington and then filming my
Right.
nose at you guys. I just don't go to Arlington.
Well, yeah, and
so-
it's really hard to get you out to Tuesday night fights when you're filming live at Off the Record.
yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't been to an Off the Record show since Tuesday Night Fight started, and that pains me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
be
no,
there if I could.
No, I believe it. You were a steady attendee prior to that, so you know, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and we will get it.
Like, you know,
We'll get
I
it
don't
back.
feel
We'll-
owed anything.
I
you
will
know?
bug you about it in the future. In fact, that was actually one of the questions is that the crowd was asking me is, would TC join a Tuesday Night Fights or a Super Turbo tournament or the NBA Hang Time / NBA Jam League, which, by the way, we actually have an NBA Jam League.
That's awesome.
It's insane.
I don't think I'm probably good enough to win that, or not like win that, but like be competitive in that. But I don't know. I'm definitely much better at NBA Jam than Tekken. I put a lot more hours in over the course of my life.
Yeah, we don't even play much Tekken, to be honest with you. I started when I did the video game.
Street Fighter 2, is that what the?
Yes, yeah. Street Fighter 2 is the game.
Yeah.
Super Turbo. That's what they call it, and it.
I never owned Street Fighter 2 at any point. I was a Mortal Kombat 2 guy.
Gotcha. And we have tournaments for that one, and
Yeah, and
things for that.
I was never anything special at that. I'm much better at NBA Jam than any other games of that era. But I'm not saying that I am.
Oh, you know what?
pro
I've played
material in
NBA
that
Jam
either.
on a team with you. You would do just fine.
Yeah.
You would be right
Okay.
in the thick of things in the NBA Jam League as it is right now.
Have you ever told that story? I always remember that.
Well, I don't remember it well. Do you remember it well? Because I know it was a ticket stock.
Yeah, you guys brought arcades out to Ticket Stock,
Mhm.
and so we were playing NBA Jam on a cabinet, and I think that it was. I think we played like 4 or 5 matches over the course of the weekend, so I don't remember which specific configuration this was. But Kid from Kid and Play was also, at Ticket Stock, and came over and played some, and we were chatting about it, and I was like, yeah, I played this game all the time on Super Nintendo whenever I was a kid, and he was like, yeah, me too, except I just had one of these cabinets in my house.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, he probably had
I
the
think
one
we were at
with
different
Jordan in
points
it.
then, kid.
Yeah.
In 1992 or whatever that was.
Yeah, my NBA Jam was always the game that I was among the best at. I had like a decade-long winning streak in that game, so
That's awesome.
people knew I was very, very good at it, and I try not to menace people. I don't want to be the guy who you're afraid to see in the arcade. So that's actually why Super Turbo Street Fighter 2 is such a big game. I picked that game because it wasn't Tekken, because it was a game that I was a new player at, and I could learn with the crowd. And then NBA Jam for me was always sort of my bar trick, where I would say, when we'd have a remote from a radio station or something, I would pick somebody from the crowd and be like, do you know what basketball is? And she would say, kinda. And I would be like, you hit that red button, which would be shoot. And I just want you to shoot everything and just keep passing her the ball. And I played defense enough that like she would win.
That's awesome.
It's weird. What are you playing now that you're sheltering at home?
Fortnite, just Fortnite.
Fortnite? Are you trying to get in
Yeah.
on is it Mike's gig? Yeah.
I don't want it on anyone's gig. I haven't streamed it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just have been playing it, but I would love to play with Mike one of these nights. I think that he seems like he starts his streams at like 6 or 7, and I have a daughter and she's awake until like probably 7:30. So I don't know if the schedule is ideal. And like I most of my Fortnite playing happens, after like 11 p.m. or something.
Yeah. I can tell you streaming is a
you know.
blow up. You start playing and it's fun, and then after a while you find out you're on the air from noon until 10 p.m. every single day. So I can't recommend it. I think your It's Just Banner gig is working just fine right now. What about expanding
Yeah.
it? Is it possible to expand it? Like It's Just Banner. I know you have Jake, and Jake has stayed with it through thick and thin. Like, how do you feel about even enlarging the audience?
I mean, I guess we'd always like to have a larger audience. I don't know. I think we're pretty happy with, just from my experience of. I mean, I would definitely. I want to be clear. I would definitely take a larger audience. It would mean, I mean, like if everyone that was currently on our Patreon told one friend, hey, you got to sign up for this Patreon, then I wouldn't have to Uber ever, like for the rest of my life, and I would like that.
Well, I'm telling all of my friends live on the air that it's very worth it. I've been a happy Patreon subscriber since it was the IJB Dow broadcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
We founded the Patreon for other purposes.
I have to say, okay, so I do have to apologize. I halved because the IJB Dow was $10, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept it at 10 the whole time. I had to drop it back to 5 because been laid off. Once I get gainfully employed again, it's going back to 10. It's worth every penny.
That's very nice of you. I mean, you're unemployed. You don't have to give us the 5, but yeah.
I need to hear the Patreon show at the very least. I can't. I'm not dealing without it. I can cancel my CBS whatever. Picard's not on the air anymore. I'll see you fools in 9 months when you release a show worth watching. I'm listening to It's Just Banner.
Yeah, I don't have like a maniacal obsession with a larger audience. Just because I mean, I certainly learned that if you would express an opinion on the ticket, like the Reddit or the Twitter feedback, the Reddit feedback, all that kind of stuff, is like one thing, and then if you express the exact same opinion on the podcast, it's a much more pleasant experience. Which
sure.
like it's part because I mean it's a lot. Just I think the biggest driving factor is just the ticket's so much a larger audience. Like if you say anything, like any statement that you could imagine, someone disagrees with, and if you're broadcasting to 30,000 people, then like the chances of that person who disagrees with it being listening right then, are much higher than if it's single digit thousands. So
well, also we are your audience. Like, I'm not when I tune into It's Just Banner, I'm tuning into either TC or Jake. I'm not, or both, right? But I'm not.
Yeah, whereas most people want to hear what Bob has to say and are just putting up with me.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I actually like whenever they had the argument on the air, as awkward as it was about you should be doing your own podcast and not doing that podcast over the Bob and Dan highlight reel. Like, I was totally like, my lighter was out because I wanted your podcast. Like, I agreed with them and I wanted your podcast and you did it, and I've been a huge fan ever since.
Yeah. I can't believe you remember that segment. I haven't had to talk about that segment in many years. I think that their points were fine. I didn't disagree with.
Yeah. Their points were fine, but I'd also not only that, I had listened to the show. Like, they didn't have to play it for me. I listened to the whole thing. I totally agree with you on your Bill Simmons hot sports opinions.
Yeah, I mean, that was just, I would think that most people, if you like at some point whenever they were 20, they had some time where they like misunderstood instructions that they could probably identify with. Like, you just kind of suck at or I sucked at understanding what people meant, and like coming to common sense conclusions whenever I was 20 years old. So they were like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. And like Bob made like a big deal of being like, hey, we really want this to be your project, and like you kill it with this. And so I was nervous that if I didn't like bring enough to it, the like if there was no entertainment value supplied by me, that they'd be like, what the hell, dude? I thought you were here to sell this. Like,
I 100% understand, because I'm just a guy like running tournaments, and suddenly they have me on the air. Like, they tossed me on the Free Play Arcade podcast, and I was like, you guys, do you want to hear the me getting trounced on the Mad Max Fury Road TC movie podcast? Like, I'm thank you, but also
I think you did fine.
I'm hanging in there. I feel much better. It's just sort of a trial by fire now that I feel better on the microphone.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about playing Madden for a TV?
Yeah, that was awesome. Whenever I worked at the radio station, the Maverick, Justin Anderson. He was Maverick at the time.
See, I told you, Beltran. I told you it was a Maverick. Thought it was a Cowboy.
Yeah. He was drafted by the Mavs, and I think he was in his first or second year. So, very exciting player. Super athletic. Everyone wanted to see what's he going to do. So Bad Radio had him on for an interview and asked him, what does he like to do in his free time? And he said he plays a ton of Madden. And I was, sitting behind him in the ticker booth, and they were like, that guy plays a lot of Madden. You guys should play. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. I'd love to. And so, Bad Radio didn't want to pass up an opportunity like that to make an event. And I always think that's the best stuff in radio. Whenever there's an event and it feels, like anything could happen. And, it's like whenever you can find a way to add extra importance to a show and make it feel like something that people are going to remember a couple years from now. That's what you want to do every day if you can, which just is not how the human brain works. You can't remember everything.
I agree, and I love it when it's something that's as wholesome as a simplistic competition, whether it's a game show or you guys playing Madden. The macing someone in the eyes is memorable, but
awesome.
It was awesome and memorable, but still I like hearing you playing for a giant TV with a Mavericks player much better.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But yeah, so we played. It came down to a field goal. There was, I think I might have punted or turned it over on downs once, and he didn't. He was at the end. I think that I was up 1, where he had the ball. He was driving, and there was a situation where he completed a crossing route and was attempting to get out of bounds. But Madden's very ticky-tacky about that, and will often have a situation where you think that someone's out of bounds and the clock still runs.
Yeah, the hitboxes are not what you think they are.
Yeah, and he knew that. So he had a crossing route where he was trying to go out of bounds because if the clock stops there, then he's got time to set up for a field goal. And he had no timeouts. I did have timeouts, and so my memory from the end game is just him yelling at me to take my timeout so that he could kick the field goal. And I was like, has this ever worked? Have you who are you hanging out with that they would take a timeout so that you could kick a field goal so that I will lose? But as it stands, the person, I think it was Cole Beasley he was throwing to. I think the Bees did get out of bounds. Justin was incorrect that he needed a timeout, and he had 3 seconds left to go on and kick the field goal. He made it, and that was the deciding play.
I remember having a background in competing in tournaments. I know I suggested that you actually stream your practice matches, and I watched your stream when you were practicing. I forget who. It may have been Mino who was playing with you.
Blake Jones.
Blake Jones,
Bad Radio producer.
Yeah. Just get as much live fire with the cameras on as possible, so that you don't. Because I felt like you probably were the better player, and it's just a matter of making that show whenever you're in live competition, which is not going to be a problem for a professional, Dallas Mavericks player. He's not going to get gun shy of the cameras.
I think he was a little nervous.
You get a little bit nervous,
but I was definitely nervous.
Right.
If you want to get into it, I would love to get into it. Do you mind if I get into it for a second?
Please go for it. The floor is yours, CC.
So I was there was a formation that I like to use a lot, where it was 3 receivers to the left and then an attached tight end to the right. So he's got to declare his coverage right away. If there's any cornerback on the right side of the screen, then that means he's in zone. And if the cornerback has followed the third receiver over to the slot, then he's in man. And then I have, a passing play that works against man, and a passing play that works against zone. And so, I'm ready to pass out of this formation, and I would run out of it plenty of times in regular competition, but it's not the thing I was trying to do. If you showed me the look that I was looking for running or for passing against zone or man, then I was going to pass. And he realized that pretty quickly, and so he was just taking his defensive end and running him to the spot. He knows he figured out what's the general gist of. And I had more stuff. It's not like I was trying to just run 2 plays, but those are definitely my bread and butter.
Right.
And normally if it's there, like, if you're getting the look you want, then like I'm ready to get a bunch of yards pretty much every time.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he was thwarting that was by just dropping his defensive end to whatever area he thought I was going to. And eventually, like in the second half, I figured out what I was supposed to do with that,
Mm-hmm.
which is just run to where the defensive end was.
Okay.
Make him stop doing that by just picking up 7 yards at a time, guaranteed on the ground. By just there's not a defensive lineman there. You got a tackle that's just running free, blocking anyone.
Take what the defense gives you.
Yeah, and if I'm at home, the first time the defensive end drops, I think I would have figured that out. But it was just, I mean, that's one of the most nervous I've ever been. It was weird, but like there's people there, and they were. I couldn't really see it like from where I was sitting and playing, but they had put the game up on the Jumbotron outside the AAC. So it felt like a big event, and TV was on the line, and I certainly would like a TV. So yeah, so
well, I mean, if you want to compete in Street Fighter 2 for $10,000, then I'm your man.
I mean, I wouldn't have a chance at that.
No way, no way. The best player in the world would come in, and it would be ridiculous. But
yeah, but especially then, like I pretty much stopped playing Madden after that, because I was, even before then, I was kind of like, what's the point of playing all this Madden? Like, it's nice and it's fun, but it's not like it's not productive time. And I was spending I don't know, hours and hours and hours every day. So I was like, yeah, I should probably just find another hobby after this, because it was like, what else am I gonna do besides this? Like, if this is the pinnacle of my Madden career, then like A+, very happy.
When it comes to Madden, that's true. If you wanna get into some NBA Jam on the side in the arcades, I can build you up, man. Now the payday might be $1,000 at the end of it, but that's about it. I think I won.
Yeah, I'd like to have $1,000.
I won. Beltran, how much? Are you with me, Beltran?
Hello.
Yes. How much do we win Ticket Stock Weekend on NBA Jam?
Oh man. Oh gosh. How much do we win?
Carry the one.
That was $200.
There you go. So
yeah,
it's not going to pay for your house.
Yeah, but it's like half an ounce.
Yeah, there you go. so if you want to play NBA Jam for a half an ounce, I'm your man. We'll get you there, and there'll be plenty of competition, and also we need a good commentator anyway, so that'd be good.
Very cool.
Here, I tell you what, I'll just officially invite you. We would love to have you in the NBA Jam League once we have an arcade again. It meets once a month on a Sunday. If you're available on a Sunday, I would say it would be quite fun.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll see.
Yep. Awesome.
I have a standing family dinner on. See, that's the thing with all these things. Like,
Of course, yeah. I can't make it to the It's Just Banter live taping anymore because I'm busy on Tuesday night. So it's frustrating to me that I can't.
But if it's Sunday morning, I mean, I certainly like playing NBA Jam.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let's see. Oh, a technical question for you as a radio professional or former radio professional or someone. How do you even go about wrapping up an interview?
I mean, comedians just say that's my time, so you could just do that.
That's
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
tried that with Lonnie McDonald yesterday, and it didn't take. And an hour later, I tried it again, and it worked.
Yeah. Is this saying are you saying
we're
I
not.
Can go?
No, I still got 4 questions that people have filled in underneath that, but I did like you, since you are my leader, I do have to. Like as soon as I get off the phone with you, Eugene, I have the best Street Fighter 2 playing woman in the world ever, and she'll be on the line, and then her
That's
Dulcim.
Awesome.
Yeah, so if you're a nerd like me, then it's gonna be a good day. But at the same time, it's another interview that I can't show prep for because I'm 10 hours into the day.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Let's see. Questions from the audience. What's your favorite shoe? I guess we had shoe talk earlier.
So I had a pair of beige Puma Romas whenever I first got out of school. That's probably a lot of times Urban Outfitters will have exclusive colorways that like the shoe company doesn't offer elsewhere, and I think that was the case for that one, which is confusing to me because I would think that Puma would want to offer the Roma in like it was a light beige like all the time. Like I don't know why everyone in the world wouldn't wear that shoe constantly. So that's number one from like my life. In the last decade, I've had a pair of gray Jordans, the ones, that I'm very partial to.
Beltran, do you approve?
I approve. Nice.
There you go.
Very good.
My man's a referee for a living. Do you like gladiator movies?
Gladiator movies? Are there a lot of them?
I don't know. Just like Spartacus and Gladiator and a couple more. And of course, have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Definitely seen a grown man naked.
Was it Jeremy Withers in a hotel room? Or Jeremy, was it somebody else that you saw? Not sure. He's got to think about that. Have you watched Invictus lately?
No, I've never seen Invictus. That was they still do it, or Bad Radio watches every or tries to watch every Oscar movie, and they'll even like say on the air like Trey put those in the folder or whatever, which was like definitely like. Do you have Oscar movies in theaters in a folder? Like, everyone knows how you get that.
Right, right.
So they, just instead of Trey being tasked with that job at the time, I was tasked with that job at the time. And, I, got them Invictus, except I did it on the company internet. And then the rights holders of Invictus sent them an email. And then there was a company-wide email of like, hey, whoever did this, got hell to pay, and I was like,
I know how it goes. So this is how it works for me streaming stuff. And I don't understand how this goes. And I assume that you're a massive international lobbyist and can get all these laws changed. But if you play any sort of song or have any song in the background, so if you've ever been to Free Play, and I don't know that you have, there's 80s music blasting in the background at all times. It's a retro arcade. So if some, if they rickroll me in the background and it gets picked up by the speakers, well, YouTube bans my video and like bans it in every country. Twitch starts shutting us down. We've had to invest in like different types of microphones just to cut out the 80s music, just because for some reason, if the RIAA has a licensed song in it, then they own you and your entire life, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah. I guess, is that just like a situation? Because like radio stations obviously have that same obstacle, but like they just, handle it by paying, like, it's not like you have to pay per song. I mean, I guess it's probably so onerous a fee for arcade that you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, we actually do pay the rights for it. So that's the crazy thing. So I assume that Cumulus has a major deal with all the rights holders so that they can play whatever song, and it's just sort of baked into they own this station and that station and that station, and it's not too terribly much. Us as a small business, we definitely pay ASCAP and pay for the rights to the songs that we play in the arcade, and we have even broadcast rights from within the arcade, except YouTube don't care. So that's the end of it.
Weird.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess, that's a simple way to handle that if it's on, rather than like going to every single person and being like, hey, have you filled out this paperwork? But I don't know.
Yeah, they just nuke everything, and you don't have the rights to your own videos. And what's frustrating for me personally is I don't care. Like, I don't want. I would say kindly sit over there, Rick Astley. Like, I'll listen to you later. I just wanna play NBA Jam with my friends and then make fun of Michael Beltran on the Interneticas.
Sure.
Let's see. Is momentum a real thing?
This is common topic on Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket. I've made my thoughts known before. It may or may not be a real thing. It's not really worth talking about because it has no predictive value.
There you go.
Like, if you're trying to figure out what's going to happen next in a game, trying to identify which team has momentum is a fool's errand because, you can always tell who did well in the last 5 plays, but that means absolutely nothing for who's going to do well in the next 5,
Mm-hmm. You're my leader, so I just sort of look to you for those thoughts. Whether I ultimately act on them or not is case by case, of course, but if you say it, I respect it. So Does TC have any stories to share from house sitting at Dan's?
Just that everything he said about whatever I did is a lie. I didn't do any of that. No, I did break his chair. Yeah, I mean, I think it was like an annual thing where like he'd be coming back from a vacation, just like inspecting the house with a microscope, being like, "Got to find a segment here somewhere." But I did break his chair, so that year it was plenty warranted. That was awesome. He paid, for at the time, I mean, whenever I was an intern and I was also working at the morning news, like answering their phones, that was my paid gig. I was making like, I don't know, $10,000-$15,000 in a year, whenever I was like 20, 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
So, when he would give me a couple $100 to watch his house, like that was, treasure. It would always be around the time that that Madden was coming out. I bought Madden off of money he gave me to watch his house. Probably 3 or 4 years in a row. So that was awesome. I liked watching his house very much. It's a very nice house.
Yeah, if anybody wants me to house sit either, I also no longer have a job, so go for it. TC, need anybody?
House sitting's a great gig. I mean, it requires you to do pretty much nothing.
Just sit there and try your best not to break a chair, and if you do, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I fed the dog, let the dog out, but
yeah,
I do that every day regardless. Not for that dog.
For
my dog, but.
If I recall, when you left the station, it was for an amorphous, non-stated business. Did it get started up? Are you still in the startup business?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, it's being disrupted along with everything else right now.
Of course, yeah.
But I thought whenever I quit that I would be like own a mountain by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly do not. But I would say the possibility of owning a mountain is very much still out there. So.
Do you need an arcade on the mountain? If you do, I know a guy.
All right, man. Yeah, no, I mean, if I get like just rolling in it, I'll open arcades in my house and stuff, and
awesome.
You guys to curate, maybe have like 4 of them with different themes in various rooms. Who knows, man?
Sounds like a good idea to me to have 4 or 5 cool arcades out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still going on. Is it a public thing yet? Are you guys to market whatever the?
Nah, I don't know that I'll ever like. I mean, I guess maybe if I'm like if I'm a multimillionaire writing my memoir, then whatever. But I don't know. It's just like I learned that there's I had enough things like that you put out there publicly, and then you'd be like, boy, I didn't want a bunch of comments from everyone about it. And then you kind of be like, well, you talked about it publicly, so that's sort of asking for it.
Right.
I mean, like yeah, what one thing I
feel the same way about it as I do about Gordo's family, right? He keeps it quiet, keeps it close to the vest. Does he have a family? Of course he does. But like he doesn't want to talk about it, and fine, I respect it. In as much as you've talked about it, there's a business, right? That's all I care, unless you want to reveal more, and I don't really care if you do want to if you do or you don't. Like that's up to you. I'm just more curious, if it's going well. I want to hear my friends doing well, basically.
It's going middling. It could be worse, could be better.
If it's still on the table, then that makes me smile, basically.
Because
right.
COVID-19.
Yeah, the apocalypse
whatever.
And all.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that like in effective terms, anything you talk about, like anything you just say to the public, then everyone gets to say whatever they want about it. And like I just didn't want to hear whether people thought it was a good idea or not. I'd made my own decision, so.
Yeah, no.
There's that,
sure.
and there are like it's I mean there is a chance that I'm not. I want to be clear. I'm doing nothing illegal. But if I talked about it publicly, it could there's down the road possible poor ramifications. Like it's not the kind of thing where you want to boast and like walk into it being like, I'm gonna be the biggest car trader in the Northeast or something. I don't know. It's not trading cards. It's got nothing.
I figured as much.
Yeah,
it's hosting.
You don't want to put a target on your back, is my point.
100% understand. Especially people love to take snipes at TC. So.
People love to take snipes at people, right?
Yeah, I don't see any more questions. I've gone through my entire list. I thank you for your time. It's been a long time getting you out here, so thank you for helping and showing up for us.
Awesome, man. Yeah, happy to do it. I hope everything works out for you guys.
Yeah, we refuse to give up, and there are people in the audience, and we watch the stream every day, and we've been donating, and I've been volunteering my time to be a to-go restaurant delivery driver. I think we will emerge, especially with the bill that passed a couple of weeks ago or 10 days ago. When you were on the air every single day for 10 hours a day, every day feels like it just goes on forever, continually. So
Yeah.
I think it will emerge out of this. That depends partly on if we are ever allowed to leave our houses. But
Yeah.
assuming
But,
that
like
happens.
at the very I think it's overwhelmingly likely you get to a vaccine. Like I don't know. I think that everyone who thinks that we're gonna be like fine by the start of June is crazy, because I don't really see any way that this dissipates without
Immunity.
Like,
You need immunity.
medical, yeah,
Right.
intervention. Most likely a vaccine, and those take like a year to develop.
Mhm.
But certainly once we have a vaccine, we'll be fine. And then even if turns out it's just a super bug and it eats vaccines, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. Humans are
yeah,
ingenious, especially
Yeah,
when it's
don't-
literally
don't,
all 5 or 7 billion of us at once.
don't underestimate the most creative solution that the entire population combined can come up with.
Yes.
It could be pretty creative. So
Yes.
We'll see.
I'm going to try and find a way for NBA Jam to cure COVID-19. That's my plan.
Unlikely, but I'm cheering for you.
I'm trying. Thanks, TC.
Thank you.
Thanks, TC.
Yep, I'll see you.